I've been asked to talk about my own experiences as a student, experience that engaged and transformed me, and then also my experiences as a teacher that have been most memorable and meaningful and powerful. Wow, it's a tall order, and I only have a few minutes, so I'll try to distill my thoughts and say something that is meaningful. Most importantly, I want to pay tribute to my many mentors and role models in my life. My teachers have molded me and in a way created me. I always tell my students to acknowledge where they came from. And I just want to take a moment. I can't list every teacher, but I want to say a few names just to honor them. Benet Arnold, Joanne Woodbury, Shirley Ryrie, John Wilson, and Dee Winterton, who are all teachers here at the university. I came many years ago, and they were absolutely critical in that formative time for me. We don't become who we are on our own, and teachers play a major role in opening doors, encouraging, and challenging students. I believe then, as a teacher, we have a weighty responsibility in helping to form who our students become as people, not just as students. Disseminating facts and figures is certainly important. In fact, I can't imagine going to university without that part of it. But I really can't imagine a true learning experience that isn't transformational and engaging. I believe there's a profound difference between regurgitating information and deep experiential learning, where you know and understand that information from the inside out, where it is part of your psyche and really part of your cells. My discipline is dance. I knew I wanted to dance when I was 3. And I've never wavered from that dream. I didn't know how I would do it. I didn't know how I'd get there. But I had a tremendous passion about following that dream. Movement was the way I learned, the way I perceived the world, the way I discovered who I was, and it still is. Dance engages the whole person. And I think just essentially because of what it is. You're moving what you know, and you're learning to know what you move. The physical part of you, the mental, the emotional, the spiritual, and the intellectual are all in concert. It's been a powerful medium for my learning, but it certainly hasn't been the only one. Now, as Associate Dean of the Graduate School, I get to know all of the departments on campus as part of their program reviews. And it's been astonishing to see how many fabulous, amazing teachers are on this campus. It's just been, it's been overwhelming to see that. They're all passionate about what they do, and they really deeply care about students. But the thing about dance for me as a student and a teacher is that at its core, dance is the quintessential engaging experience. You have to be there. You have to participate. And you have to be fully committed to the whatever experience comes your way. What you do, you know. I guess I feel great concern about distance learning. It seems so, well, distant and lonely in a way. However, I know technology is not going away, so I keep trying to think about ways where both high-tech and high-touch, in the words of Eric Booth, I think he was talking about that in a speech, where high-tech and high-touch can interact and intermingle and support each other, where both can be present and in a dynamic relationship. I want to tell you about 2 teachers a little bit more in depth that had a profound impact on me. The first was my high school humanities teacher, Ralph Johnson. He taught AP Humanities at West High School, Phoenix, Arizona. And in his class, I read things I never knew existed. They blew my mind. I was challenged to think about issues in ways I had never considered. And I was really introduced to cross-disciplinary concepts from science, visual art, and music. Before that was really something that we talk about so often today. But he was able to cross over all of these different disciplines. I found that tremendously exciting and really beautiful. Through his classes, I saw the pursuit of knowledge as an aesthetic practice. I got tremendously excited about that class, and a bunch of us did. And during the summer, Mr. Johnson would have us over to his house. It was like kind of like a book club, where we'd gather at his home and talk about ideas. And it was so stimulating. It really ignited my curiosity and my appetite for learning. I ended up after that summer with not so many answers, but tons of questions. And with a new way of viewing the world. It was really amazing, and it was a formative time in my young intellectual development. I've had the most remarkable teachers, really, and they have not always made my life easy or comfortable. In fact, as I think back, teachers who led me into ambiguity and confusion, who seemed to thrive on not wanting neat and tidy answers, have been the most powerful. Another teacher that I want to honor was an amazing artist who died in 1993. His name was Alwyn Nicolai. And he remains one of the greatest choreographic and teaching geniuses of the 20th century. Google him. You can find some clips of his work on YouTube, and it will amaze you. He was a genius. Anyway, I saw Nick's company at Kingsbury Hall in the 1960s, and it changed my life. I was an undergraduate here then, and I proceeded to become a groupie, a Nicolai groupie. I want to tell you that I traveled around and found wherever Nick was, I'd go to take a workshop. I was just on fire about his work. And I always came away from his classes. He was so articulate and bright and creative, and yet I always came away from his classes utterly confused about what he wanted us to do. I just wanted him to tell me what to do, and instead he confused me. And I had to figure it out. It's not unlike your experience, Jim. So he would give us composition and improvisation problems, and I had no idea where to start when I started working. I didn't know where to pull from within myself to make a piece that would honor what he was asking us to do. And I have to say that process was really torturous. I longed to be told explicitly how to go about solving the problems, but Nick would say, the process will reveal the meaning. In the doing, you will gain insight into the problem, even if your dance is not successful. You will learn from the risk-taking and the delving into the unknown. And I discovered at that moment that really this was research. This was personal research, and it was research on the making of dances that was really deep and went beyond learning steps. You don't know where you're going at the onset, but you discover it as you're on your journey. I was talking to a chemistry professor the other day from Colorado, and we were talking about case study methodologies that he uses in his scientific ethics course. And he said to me, my students hate case studies because the answers are always so multifaceted, complex, and not black and white. And my students want concrete answers. They want to know, is it this way or this way? Is it right or wrong? And I said to him, oh, I love these case studies. They're complex, they're convoluted, and not clearly defined. But I think that's probably because I studied with Alwyn Nicolai and other teachers who were equally committed to the messiness of the process being the message. My colleague, Abby Fayette, she's here, always talks about the process of learning to dance, preparing you for life. And I think that's true because life is messy, and you never know quite where you're going. When I came to the University of Utah, I came to dance. One of my teachers at the Joffrey Ballet School in New York City told me I could dance at a high professional level here and earn my degree, so I moved to Utah, never imagining that I would stay very long. I never considered that I would teach. I never wanted to teach. I wanted to dance. I wanted to perform. I never in a million years thought that I would become a professor, a department chair, and then an associate dean. Life is not a linear process, and it is most often in the twists and turns, the U-turns, the wrong turn, that making the turn you didn't think you needed to make. All of the mistakes and the serendipitous happenstances. And it's in those moments where the most magical things happen, I think, in education, the most transformational things, the struggles. This has been my experience, and I always talk to my students about this because so many of them are in such a hurry and want that linear path to the end point. I've been teaching now for about 40 years and here at the university since the late 1970s. I still get nervous. I was telling Mark, I still get nervous. He said he did too. Before every class. My heart beats fast. I lie awake during the night before I start the semester and think about how will I engage these students this time around. There's no formula. I have a lesson plan. But you know, every group of students is different. They're entirely different, and each student is unique. So it's a challenge, and it's a wonderful challenge. Restructuring things, improvising in the moment, really listening to that class dynamic. It's tremendously exciting. My students are fabulous young people. They challenge me, amaze me, inspire me. They are my teachers. And they're the reason that I continue to do what I do. And as an administrator, I think it's incredibly important to continue to teach. So any of you in that mix or making that transition, I think teaching keeps you knowing what you're doing the administrative work for, which is to make things happen for those students and the faculty. I'm almost done. But one final story I'd like to share. One of my students just currently was really struggling with a tremendous amount of fear in the process of creating her thesis project, which for MFA students in dance is a lengthy choreographic work. She was stuck in a rut due to this fear of failure or of not somehow creating a dance that was worthy, but she persevered. She started with some very focused work in the studio that became transformative for her as a person. She's told me this, as well as a choreographer. She really took some risks. She jumped into an abyss for her. And she created a spectacular solo, discovered that she could overcome the fear and move forward as a person and an artist. I asked her if I could share something she's written in the conclusion of her written thesis. I think it's really powerful. She says, "In my opinion, fear either pushes you forward or holds you back. If you take it by the hand, it can lead you into uncharted waters, where growth is inevitable. If you don't, you stand where you always stood, and you are who you always were." And that's a quote from Emmy Barker. So in closing, I encourage you to acknowledge those who stretch and inspire and support you. Be open to going places you didn't think you wanted to go, and embrace the messiness of the process along the way. But most of all, don't fear mistakes, because as Miles Davis said, there are none. Thank you.